So in 1998 was my first Christmas away from home. I graduated from Keene State College in 1998, and I left, and it was like a big thing because I was like the baby of the family, and they didn't want me to leave, which I was happy, but I wanted to pursue something, and so when I left, like I remember my dad said, he's like, you know, you don't have the balls to leave on the day of your graduation, you know, you got to get out of here, and because I had interviews for internships, so I missed my graduation. I got on the bus, and it was like my big thing of becoming like a man, you know, and when I got here, I lived in the dorms at NYU for 3 months, and like Reuben Hall on 5th Avenue and 10th Street, and like I remember I called them from like New Hampshire, and I said like, you know, is that like a safe area? And like NYU said, yeah, I think you're gonna be okay on 5th Avenue and 10th Street. So when I got there, and then I was fortunate, I got an internship at 20th Century Fox, and then a job at Virgil's Barbecue, and then the people at Virgil's, they like adopted me, and I was extremely, like, it was like nice of them because I was having a lot of trouble finding housing, and like when I would go into real estate brokers in New York, I was like, hey, how you doing? And they go like, no, and I leave. And, so I ended up, like a couple ended up getting me an apartment, in a basement apartment in Fairview, New Jersey, that was next to a cemetery. So it was a little bit depressing, but I was hungry. Adam Wade was hungry, and I was ready, and so and I was like applying for different jobs while I was waiting tables, and then in October of that year, I got my big break, and it was I got a job as a night photo editor at the Associated Press. So it was 4 p.m. to midnight, and like what I didn't know, like looking back, was the reason why these jobs were posted and stuff is that they would hire some sap to work 4 months and then get rid of them, and then you'd have to work through the holidays. So when I got the job, it was, for me, like working at Associated Press, it was like 50 Rockefeller Center. It was like my big break, and like, you know, like calling home and saying like, I'm no longer working at Virgil's, I'm working at Associated Press, and they're like, oh, that's great. You're working at UPI. I'm like, no, it's the Associated Press. It's a different thing. They didn't really. So it was great, but I had to work the holidays, and for me it was like Thanksgiving was a little difficult, but then as Christmas came and the tree was put into Rockefeller Center, and there was just, no matter where you walked, there was just reminders that it was Christmas. I was starting to get lonely, and I was homesick. I didn't really have like a lot of friends besides like the couple people at Virgil's and stuff like that, who, by the way, would give me a free meal once a week. So thank you. So like when I would work at AP, but so like Christmas Eve was like the toughest day I had ever had, and like I just remember going to work, and I got on the bus, and as I was walking like up like 6th Avenue, I saw people, you know, you could tell they were getting ready to go to parties and stuff like that, and I was going to work, so I like suck it up, you know, be a big boy, you gotta be tough, and when I do that, so I got into like the Associated Press, and I just noticed there was just like about like 5 other people working that night. It was like dead, and it was all like people like me that just got hired for the holidays just so someone was there. And it was like, you know, really, it was just a little sad. And what I did was I made the mistake of calling home, and like they were all at the my Aunt Dee Dee and Uncle George's having their Christmas party and passing out gifts and eating food, and I thought that would might like uplift my spirits, but it didn't, and it was so. I did what I was supposed to do. I called TGIF Fridays. It was the only restaurant that was open. It was open on 5th Ave and 47th, and I ordered like a big dinner for myself. You know, I got the chicken tenders with the rice and the coleslaw. Besides like the ham and all that, that was like my favorite meal. So the pipes are gonna snap a little, so just be prepared that they're supportive of me. So like when the food came, I ran downstairs, and then it was a Spanish delivery guy, and I was like, hey, how are you? And I don't know much better. Like, almost muy bien, too, and like we were laughing, and it was $14.80, and then like the poor guy, he was working on Christmas Eve at Adam Wade's Sport. I gave him $20, and I said, keep the change. And I mean, for me, it made me feel like a big deal, and even though I really wasn't. And so I went upstairs and to eat, and like the Very Brady Christmas was on, and like I really didn't have any work. I was just there, you know. So I'm sitting there, and it was just kind of like, I know, like small, simple pleasures, but I was very excited because this was like one of my favorite meals. So I opened up the bag, and in the bag, I don't know if it was because like with Christmas rush or whatever, but there was only like 3 chicken tenders in there, and like I like dipping them in the honey mustard sauce, and that was missing, and there was no ketchup, and there was just like about like 10 fries, and but there was this big vat. It was like a quart of coleslaw. So I mean, I'm not a huge coleslaw fan, but I mean, well, I guess they tried to, I don't know. So there's a lot of color. So I saw, I was like sitting there, and then there was like this like French, I don't want to say like a model, but she was like this French, she was a famous director, this is my daughter that worked there, and she was leaving and she was going to go to her father and mother lived on the Upper East Side or Central Park, whatever, and they were going, she was like, I'm going to this, this Christmas party, and I was just kind of like, oh, that's great. I'm just gonna go home to Fairview, my basement apartment by the cemetery. Happy Christmas! Joy Noel, And like I did that like to camp up a little because like I was hoping I would get to go to the party. Maybe like and it didn't work, so she left, and so then I did what I normally do on my shift from 10 to 11:30, I took a nap. So I took a little nap, and then I had like my little alarm clock. I carried everything around, so I had a little alarm. So I woke up, and then I got my things, and I walked to the commissary. Now, there's a guy that worked the commissary, his name was Rudy. And now Rudy was like, probably like in his like early 70s. Thank you, I love you too. The guy through the whole night. As it gets colder, the pipe. Thank you. Thank you. Okay, it's good. It's like Rocky. That it helps me. So I walked in to see Rudy, and Rudy, he was like a jazz roadie for like Duke Ellington and stuff like that. So like we would go in, and I'd always have a cup of coffee with decaf, and then I'd leave. But it was like the highlight of my night, and because he would tell me all about this, like jazz stuff, and I was really interested. And then also for me, like I like sports, so we talk about the Celtics and the Knicks, and it was just always like a good way to leave like that because it was a shitty job. It was always left me in a good spirit. So he saw I was really down, and like so I had my cup of coffee and we're talking, and then like I pulled out like in high school I played the saxophone, and I had like this keychain of a saxophone, and I had it since like I was 16, and I gave it to him for my career because this guy he never charged me for the coffees, you know what I mean, and he meant a lot to me, this guy, and so I go, I have this, and he was just like delight, like it was like I had given him like a bar of gold. He was just so happy, I'm like, oh Rudy, and I go, I'll have it. He goes, you want another cup of coffee? I go, absolutely, you read my mind. So like I stayed there at like 12:30 because like I didn't have anywhere to go, and he was playing with me because I know he'd always close when I left. So like I go, all right, well I've had 3 cups of coffee now, Rudy, I'm gonna get going. So I'm like at the door, and he's like shutting everything down and putting locks on it and stuff, and I'm like, all right, I'll see you. Happy Christmas, Rudy. And he's like, Happy Christmas. And I go, Happy New Year, even though I'm going to see you in 2 days. He's like, Happy New Year. And we're going back and forth. And I wouldn't leave, And he's like, Adam, listen. He's like, this is tough for you. You're away from home, but you're a good kid. You got a good heart. He goes, things are going to be all right. You got to just hang in there. Things are all right. You just got to hang in there. I'm like, oh, thanks, Rudy. That was nice. But like, I try to kind of like blow it off, but it's like, I got down off the elevator and I walked to Port Authority and then waited an hour for the bus and then took the bus home 40 minutes. Like I just kept thinking and like I was lonely, I was scared, and I was, I just wanted to be home, but I just kept thinking like, you're gonna be all right, you're gonna be all right, just hang in there, just hang in there. And it, like not like a shot, but like like brandy or something, but it got me through. Thank you.